Imagine that you went and bought a server somewhere at a server farm, and the salesperson was like, "Yeah, it costs you $140,000 a year, but really it's going to be down all night, starting at 5 o'clock. Every day at about 11, 12 o'clock, it's going to go down for an hour. It's probably going to just be randomly down another 15 days out of the year and then planned down another 15 days out of the year. And who would buy that? No, nobody would pay for that. It's a terrible, terrible product, but that's what human beings are, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alex.
And my name is OP.
Welcome to AI on Fire, the podcast where ideas spark, code burns, and the future of AI takes shape through the real stories from the builders behind it.
Every fire has three elements: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Control those and you control the flame. That's how we think about AI too. Not something to contain, but something to shape.
And today we're turning up the heat with Jesse Anglen, founder and CEO of Ruh.AI, a platform focused on building autonomous AI agents that can actually complete end-to-end tasks across real businesses, not just answer stupid questions. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Really glad to have you here. So, Jesse, let's start with the beginning. What pushed you into the world of AI agents and automation?
So, super simple story. I was running a software development company. I had 380 people that worked for me, and onboarding was just a pain. So we'd close new clients, and basically the job of taking someone's software development idea out of their head and translating it into something that a developer could go build was extremely time consuming. I mean, for us to onboard a new client would take roughly 6 weeks to really extract everything, translate it into, documentation so that we could give that to developers and they could go and build it. And I had this guy that was working for me on the discovery team, and I noticed that he onboarded a client in 4 days. And so I called him up and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he had used DaVinci 001. So this would have been March of 2022. So before ChatGPT 3.5, 4,000 token context window, he had used that model and created this, I would call it an intelligent automation flow, where he would feed the transcripts from his calls into his little system that he built, and it wrote all of the documentation, like 130 pages of documentation, and probably nailed it 85 to 90%. And then he would go through after that, read it, make some simple modifications, then pass them off to the developers. And when I saw the potential for synthetic value creation or digital labor compared to biological labor, I just thought this is the way that the world's going to go. There's no way on earth that people aren't going to adopt a technology that allows you to create the same amount of value, 90% cheaper and 100 times faster. And so I became obsessed with the idea of building out digital labor systems. And anytime after that someone in my company would quit or go find another job, the question we always asked ourselves was, can we replace this person with AI? And so we started developing an architecture and a system for building out AI agents and intelligent automation and different things along those lines. And so now that company, which I'm just on the board, I don't run it anymore, but now that company has about 85 people that work for it, and about 160 full-time AI agents that are working for it on a daily basis. And yeah, that's what started the whole journey into AI. I would call it more of an obsession with AI agents.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you partially answered that, but you work across, AI automation, I believe blockchain as well, and enterprise systems that you just described. And you touch on a moment that made you realize, but still, did you feel, okay, this is a new way of AI, is different, than like any other automations that we had previously? You want to go and build it.
So the thing for me that I became obsessed with was I liked what I would call like automation 2.0 or intelligent automation, which is what everyone has been doing really since then. But that wasn't really what captured my heart in that moment. What I wanted was to build an agent that reasoned on its own, made its own decisions, modified its own instructions based on the outcomes that it was getting, and could work on long horizon tasks. I wanted something that I could I could go say, hey, like, go find me leads. This is my company. And that's all the instructions I would ever have to give it, because from that point forward, it would constantly get better and better and better at its job, and it would work for the next 5 years and find me leads inside whatever business that I had. Like, for me, that is like the pinnacle of the AI agent transition, is when we start having agents that have agency and autonomy, right? Like, they work on my behalf as well as I do, or better, hopefully, and they make their own decisions in line with whatever guidelines I set out in front of it. Go find me leads in Denver, Colorado for, my window washing company that does, focus on businesses. And then it's like, okay, sweet. I will go out and I'll find businesses in Denver, Colorado that have windows, and I'll reach out to them and see if they want someone to come wash their windows. And it does that until the end of time. I never have to update it. I never have to give it another instruction. And when it's failing based on its OKRs, whatever industry standards are for things like, open rates and response rates and things along those lines, it starts adjusting its campaigns, right? It has all the data. Like, it knows all of these things. Large language models are far, far more knowledgeable than any human being that's alive today. They have more knowledge stored inside them than any one single person by a magnitude of what, a billion? I don't know. And so I just wanted to be able to take advantage of that and do long horizon or forever tasks.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
probably large language models has much more confidence than any human does, right? So
Yeah.
with all
And
the hallucination.
sometimes that's a terrible, terrible thing, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, their ability to, well, and actually I read a paper on this recently, 3-4 weeks ago. Part of the reason that large language models hallucinate at all is because of how we train them. Like, if you think about this, when you were going to school and you were given a test, if you knew what the answer was, you put the answer in. If you thought you knew what the answer was, you gave it the answer as confidently as possible in hopes that maybe you were right, and then you would once again, get the right score and pass. And we train AI models in exactly the same way. So we're actually teaching them to lie, because instead of rewarding them by saying, I don't know what the answer is, because of how we actually have architected the training of these models, we're literally teaching them to confidently lie to us. And so I do think that there's a generation of models that are going to be coming out in 2026 based on that research that actually hallucinate far less than the current generation of models that exist. I mean, at the end of the day, man, the technology is getting so much better, so much faster. Like, one day, as an experiment, you guys or anyone who's listening should go use DaVinci 00, the old model from OpenAI,
Like using Windows 95 or something, right?
or like DOS. Like, it's insane how far we've come. And that was March of 2022.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't that long ago. And then we went from there to what I think it was November that 3.5 launched. And that I thought was revolutionary. I remember calling a friend of mine up the day that I saw ChatGPT 3.5. And I said, well, this is it. Like, this is the most important invention that man has ever discovered since we figured out how to light fires. Like, this is going to be more revolutionary than anything we've ever done. And people laughed at me back then because they thought I was making a lot of ado about nothing. But I think it's true. Like, I think once you have intelligence, once you've captured intelligence as a API endpoint, you can do so many things. And it even goes beyond that. Like, in the 80s, photography was a chemistry problem, right? Like, you couldn't go take a lot of pictures. Like, I remember being a kid, you'd go buy a roll of film for $8 and you guarded every single picture. Like, everyone posed and you were really, really
32
careful.
pictures, exactly, right? If you reach.
Yep. Yeah, dude. And I'm not going to go like
5 or 27. I don't remember how much you can take.
Yeah. I'm not going to take a picture of my food and send it to somebody, or all the other things that people take pictures of. Well, then when Kodak figured out how to turn a chemistry problem into a math problem, math is scalable, right? And I think what we are at the precipice of right now is we're turning a biological problem, right? Human biology, and we're turning it into a math problem, because at the end of the day, intelligence is a biology problem. Well, when we can turn intelligence into a math problem, then all of a sudden it's scalable, and we're not reliant upon all of the major defects that you rely on currently with human beings and their intelligence. Like, number one, they're expensive to buy. If I want to go hire you guys, you're not going to come work for me for free. They have tons of downtime, right? Every day you have downtime because you're going to go to the bathroom, you're going to eat lunch, you're going to get distracted. If you imagine that you went and bought a server somewhere at a server farm, and the salesperson was like, "Yeah, it costs you $140,000 a year, but really it's going to be down all night. Starting at 5 o'clock, the server's going to be down. Every day at about 11, 12 o'clock, it's going to go down for an hour. It's probably going to just be randomly down another 15 days out of the year, and then planned down another 15 days out of the year. And really, it starts slowing down at about 2 o'clock every day because it just hits a wall and it's not very good at processing. Who would buy that? No, nobody would pay for that. It's a terrible, terrible product, but that's what human beings are, right? Because we're biological and we have biological limitations. Well, math doesn't have those problems. And so you scale your compute, you scale your intelligence, you scale value creation, and all of a sudden the world becomes a place where is created for far less than it currently is because we're not bottlenecked by the biology of humans. And I don't know, to me, that was the revelation. Like that was the thing that I've been chasing after and spending all of my time on in the last 3 or 4 years.
If we look at from the different angle, right? So we had those companies who were doing like algorithms and I would say language models starting from like 60s, 70s, right? So take SAS, take IBM and all of those. But OpenAI made it more accessible for end users, right? So more like user friendly. And I think that's what AI agents are doing right now, right? So it's much more accessible for end users and companies and everyone who are not like super technical.
Yeah. Well, that's what ChatGPT 3.5 did, was
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
first
Yeah.
time. When really there were two things that happened. There was a paper that Google wrote called Attention is All That You Need, about how to train models so they actually could sound like, so they could communicate in human language, right? When OpenAI got a hold of that paper and they started actually using that research to like create models, that's when things really started kicking off. Because prior to that, the AI that we had, although it was very good, like Google's developed some of the most amazing AI in the entire world for searching. Netflix has an amazing engine for recommendations. Like Apple has an amazing prediction engine for typing. We've been developing amazing AI for a long time. The problem is that AI couldn't communicate with us, not in the way that we communicate, right? It could give you a good Netflix recommendation, or it could tell you what word it thought you were trying to type, even when you had fat fingers and couldn't hit the right place on the phone. But it couldn't talk to you. It couldn't communicate with you. And I think when Google released that paper and OpenAI really took it to heart and started developing the language models, like that's when all of a sudden the lights turned on. And I think everyone realized how far we've actually made it in the AI space. Because it was built on 20, 30, 40 years of really, really amazing research. And now we can talk to these things. And that's
You,
why
you,
agents are going to be amazing, right? It's
you can
the
talk, you
human
can.
to computer yeah. Well, I think it's
So
epic.
now let's talk about the downside of it, right? So everyone talks about AI agents. They're like magic. You can talk to them. They can talk back. They can create images. They can analyze stuff. While you're building Ruh.AI, right? So sometimes it can get messy. Reliability, context, memory, integration. So what was the hardest problem you've had to solve so far?
There's been a bunch of them. So there was this book that I used to read my kids when they were little. I called Amelia Bedelia. And it's this little maid she's like a maid in these rich people's house. And she took all of the instructions she was given literally. And so, like they would leave her instructions when they left and say, go change the towels. So she would go into the bathroom and she would cut the towels into different shapes and change them, or they would say, draw the drapes in the morning. So she would go and grab a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper, and she would draw the drapes. Or they would say, can you dress the chicken? And so she would sew a little dress and put it on the chicken, right? Because she acted like an AI model. Like at the end of the day, and I've told so many engineers that are learning prompt engineering and how to set up AI agents, go find an Amelia Bedelia book, read it, and then realize that the very best model on the marketplace today is Amelia Bedelia. She will do what you tell her to do. And so that's been interesting to overcome, simply because these AI models do what you tell them to do. And human beings are really good at taking vague instructions and making them explicit in our own minds, whereas AI doesn't have that translation between a vague instruction and something explicit. And when it guesses, it's usually terrible. So that was an issue to overcome. The other one really has been memory. I thought memory was going to be really easy because we have knowledge graphs and we've got vector databases and RAG and all these amazing tools. And so obviously we can store memory and retrieve it and do exactly what the human does. But when you start really looking at the anatomy of memory and how we use it to do work, like we have lots of different kinds of memory, right? Like I remember things from 5 years ago when I, pretty well that I need to remember for the work that I'm doing today. And I've forgotten tons of things that I needed to forget. How did I know that? Like, how did I know what to let go of and what to keep? That's not an easy problem to solve, right? And there's stuff from last week that I've already let go of that I don't remember, that I don't need to. And I need to know it now. And then my recall is perfect all day today, right? Like I know exactly what's happening all the time. And so understanding like the 3 layers of memory and teaching a model how to throw away memories versus when and how to keep memories, and then when to go and check. Like, when do you think? Because we do it automatically. If you say, hey, Jesse, tell me about a time, like I'm already reaching back into my memory, thinking about whatever, time X, like what happened. Well, it's hard to tell these agents and to tell them to go do these things and to really think like a human being. And so the architecture for that was interesting. Luckily, there's a lot of guys that are working on it. Like there's an open source project called Mem0 that is all like they've dedicated the last 4 or 5 years probably, or even more maybe, to just trying to architect a solution that allows agents to access memory. And they've made so much progress. So 3/4 of what we have is built on top of, the shoulders of giants who are doing amazing things. Then the other one would be long horizon tasks. And it has to do with memory and other stuff. Like agents tend to get stupid over a long period of time because their context gets full or large. And the more context that you give an agent, the more confused they get. I've got a friend who's a little bit autistic and he remembers everything. And I think that agents almost act like that, where they get overstimulated with context and then they freak out and they have no idea what to do. And so like being able to provide them an environment where their context can be trimmed down to what's important for what they're doing, and task switching and knowing when to throw that context away and pull in new context for a new task so you don't accidentally have like phantom instructions from an old task and things along those lines. Like those are all the kinds of challenges that we're trying to solve, which you have to solve for long horizon tasks that are useful.
And you're not alone, right? Everyone are trying to solve this for AIs right now.
Right now, yes. Although I will say, and I don't think it's just us trying to solve it, but there's a lot of people that so like when did TV come out? Like we invented the TV in like the 70s sometime maybe. When people first invented television, they thought, what we should do? We should make a movie on the TV. And so they went and got a camera guy and they went to a stage play area and they filmed people doing a play, which is cool. Like it was a better version of a play, but it took a decade for someone to go, you know what? We don't have to do this live. Like we could shoot it in sections and then splice the film together. Like we don't have to have everyone always facing the same direction all the time. Like, and then all of a sudden the idea of a movie was born, right? But they utilized the new technology with the mindset of the old way of doing things for almost a decade. And I do think there are a lot of people that are currently working on making I think it's like the bionic horse problem, I've heard it called. So they're trying to figure out how to make a robotic horse, right? Because horses are what we had before. And so now let's make a better horse. Well, we don't need a better horse. We don't need a horseless carriage, right? We need to go and invent a car. Like we figured out what a combustion gas engine is. It's time to go and invent cars. Well, I think with the advances we've made in this technology, like we don't need better email automation. We don't need better versions of what we've built in the last 20 years. We actually need something new. We need a new way of thinking about how to produce value, what labor looks like, what work looks like, we just need something new. And I don't think there's enough people working on that. I think there's a lot of people working on automation 2.0. There's a lot of people working on intelligent automation and calling it agents, but they don't have agency. They can't make their own decisions. They don't have freedom. They're not responsible for their actions in the sense that if they fail, they reason through that failure, update their own instruction set, and then continue moving forward. Like we don't have very many of those examples right now, I don't think. So I agree, there's a lot of people working on it. I just think a lot of people are shooting, they're shooting Shakespeare plays in one take on stages with cameras. instead of inventing movies.
Yeah. So taking into account like all those challenges that we are currently working on, and you at Ruh.AI, like at your company, you work at with real business workflow. And how do you balance speed and accuracy, without the system becoming unpredictable or unreliable, etc.? So if you can, give us more details on your product and how you solve those challenges.
So yeah, so for us, ultimately what I spend a lot of time thinking about is how do human beings produce value, right? At the end of the day, an agent needs to be able to do something that is valuable, just like a human does something that's valuable. We basically broke down value creation into 4 different pieces that are necessary to create value. Well, 3 that are necessary and 1 that is that's a I don't know, a scaling factor for value. So number 1 is intelligence, right? You have to have something that is intelligent. With a human being, if I go give you a task and you're stupid, you're going to fail. Like anyone who's ever worked with someone who's stupid realizes that you have to have enough intelligence to do the task you're given. We have that with large language models. We have access to lots of intelligence. But if you're the smartest person in the world and I give you a task and you have no memory, you don't know where you work, you don't know where you are, you don't know what your job is. If you're a graphics designer and you have no idea like that you're a graphics designer or that you work at a specific company, like once again, you're going to fail. Doesn't matter how smart you are. And so that would be component number 2. And if you're the smartest person in the world and you've got the best memory in the world, but you have no tools, you're still going to fail, right? If you're a graphics designer and say, design me a logo, you have no computer, you have no pencil, you have no colored pen, you can't even use your finger on the dust on a windshield. You're going to fail at designing a logo because you have no tools. Once you have those 3 things, you can create value, right? We give them to our people. We make sure they're smart. We make sure that they've got good enough memory, like they know where they are, they know what they're doing, and then we give them the tools that they need to succeed. But there's a 4th one, and this is really, I think, goes to your question, like how do you keep them aligned and keep things from getting chaotic? Even if you have the smartest person in the world with the best memory in the world and the best tools in the world, and they have no process. You guys are both volunteer firefighters, so you'll understand this. If you look at how firefighters behave, like there are such strict processes when it comes to being a firefighter. Like you're supposed to, especially as like a chief, right? You show up, you check everything every time you show up because you want to make sure that if a call goes out, you're 100% ready to go out and take that call. Right. And so there's like rigid processes. Well, imagine running a shop and having no processes, right? People would actually die. Like that's what would happen is you'd have people die because you need to go and help them and you can't because we forgot to put fuel in the truck or whatever it happens to be. Right. And so ultimately, I think that what we currently see in the marketplace with agents is we get people who are focused on intelligence, and then you get really smart agents that are stupid. Right? Because they're know-it-alls, but they don't know at all what they're doing. Or you get chatbots, right? And they have no tools. Like they can't do anything. They can say a lot of cool stuff, but they can't do anything. Or maybe sometimes people get it right and they get all 3, but you get the chaos because there's no actual processes running behind what it is that they're doing. And the truth is, as like a business owner, I'd fire you if you came into my business and you were really smart, you had great tools and a great memory and no processes. I'd fire you and keep someone who was half as smart, had half as good a memory and had half as good a tools that had a killer process, because at the end of the day, that cuts down on the chaos. And I know that they're going to outperform you 9 times out of 10 because they have like a rigid way of doing the work that they do. And so when we were thinking about building Ruh out, we wanted to make sure that we built an architecture that supported all 4 of those pillars because we felt like all 4 of them were necessary for value creation. And ultimately, that's what an agent's job was to do. But that last piece, I think, is underrated. Like people don't when an agent is deployed, it should, hook it up to MCP. That's fine. Make sure it's a good model. That's fine. Hook it up to Mem0. That's fine. Like all that stuff's good. But you need something like N8N or something that actually goes and gives it some rigid guidelines that says, when you go to send an email, this is what that looks like. This is how you do it. We do it in our businesses. We create SOPs for people and we fill up binders with stuff or Google Drives with stuff or Confluence, and we make people read it. They don't follow it, which is annoying, but an agent will follow it. Give it a process. They'll do it every time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
We need process, we need organization, right?
yep.
And that's it. It's like fire. You mentioned 4 pillars. It's like fire triangle: oxygen, heat, fuel. You got a perfect fire, right? So it's almost the same for Ruh.AI, right?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so surprised that you know so much about fires and the processes. That's cool.
I just know a little bit about everything. I've got some friends that are firefighters, and I talked to them. So I'm
Yeah,
surprised. You guys are probably in the civilian marketplace outside the military. Firefighters are probably the most procedurally oriented people that are out there. Like it is incredible. I went and saw my buddy, and he showed me like the process for him showing up as the chief, like what he does. Like it's
yeah,
intense,
yeah.
and what
We're pretty
everyone
good
does is
organized.
intense. Yeah,
We need to
very
follow
organized. Well,
because our lives depend on it, and
yep.
someone else's lives depend on it, right? So
Yeah. Well,
that's why
someone
you
will
need to run
die.
process. Yeah,
Either you will die or someone else will die just because you didn't run through your process.
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
And so anyone who does something that's really important understands that that's really important. And honestly, it cuts the chaos down. Like that's where you get problems with like AI agents like Manus, for instance. I love Manus. It's an awesome agent. And there's lots of them that are like that. But when they're doing the work, they have no process. And so oftentimes the results that you get are very spotty, and it's very chaotic, like you would expect from anyone who's doing work without a process, right? And so if somebody like Manus, who's got some of the memory components, definitely the intelligence component, a lot of the tool use component, if they would just go and update their product with a workflow component and say, listen, the agent's not allowed to do anything until it's thought through how to actually do the task. What workflow am I going to use? And then I'm going to save that. So the next time I go do it, I can do it consistently every time, allow the user to refine that process. When they don't like the results that I'm getting, then you eliminate lots of chaos, tons of hallucination, like all kinds of things.
Yeah, just follow, observe, and update the processes. All right, so it's time for the fire drill. So it's just simple questions, simple answers, 1 sentence maximum. And we have around 10 questions. So if you're ready, let's go. Ding, 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 ding.
All right. So from your perspective, AI agents, this is a hype, evolution, or full revolution?
A full revolution.
Awesome. What's harder, getting good data or getting good user feedback?
Wow, that's a hard question. Getting good user feedback.
It's a part of the data, right?
Yes.
So if you could remove one bottleneck in AI agents today, what it would be?
Memory.
Yeah. And security. Most surprising use case someone has tried with Ruh.AI.
All of them have made a lot of sense. I don't know if there's anything super surprising. It's surprising when it works. Like the first time someone launched a sales development representative to go out. Oh, this is way more than 1 sentence. Most surprising use case. I watched someone build an SDR and they got like a 30% response rate and cold email from a cold list. And I was very surprised.
All right. Not bad.
So would you trust AI agent to negotiate a business deal for you?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So what's tougher right now? Hiring, product decisions, or customer expectations?
In the real world or in the AI world? Hiring
For you, for your product.
for my product.
Yeah. We're talking about you.
Hiring.
All right.
Hiring.
Because we don't need to hire anyone, right? So agents will
Yeah.
replace everyone.
But people are always the hardest part of every organization. Always.
So from your perspective, what is the biggest killer for AI startups? Complexity, maybe lack of focus, or moving too slowly, or anything like that you feel right here?
I mean, the biggest issue for all startups is implementation at the end of the day, organization and implementation. But that wasn't on your list. So complexity.
All right. So moving from demo to real production.
Yes. Yeah. From an idea to something real is almost impossible for anyone to do.
Yeah. And make people actually use it, right?
Yeah.
People
I
don't
mean,
like this. Yeah.
I've helped in the software side of things. I help people build I've been involved in over 500 startups, and I can guarantee you one thing: there are not over 500 of those people do not still exist with a business that is doing well. Like
That's
most of them have
super
failed.
impressive. I think they're all thankful. Speaking about Thanksgiving. Anyway, so a couple of last questions. If for some reasons Ruh disappeared tonight, what would your customers miss the most about the product?
Free value creation or inexpensive value creation.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So what about from your perspective, what would be the most overrated phrase in AI right now?
That's a good question. Probably AI revolution, the one that I used earlier, is probably the most overrated.
It's just starting. It's just starting.
Yeah, I would say agents, but I would have to explain why I think that's overrated, and it's because no one understands. No one's defined it. No one knows what they're talking about. Everyone's using the phrase, and no one knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, there is no standards. There is no process around it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, the fire drill is over. Thanks a lot. We're getting to the final sections, and the next section is forecast. So, looking ahead from now about a year, what do you think people are getting totally wrong about AI agents?
I think it's that they're building better automation instead of building AI agents. That's what I think we're going to wake up and realize a year from now, is that we could have been building something far more sophisticated and we just weren't because we didn't think about it.
All right, makes sense.
And to build on top of that, uh, what what do you think AI will actually give back to people once hype is faded and everything is like over? So what we as a people will end up with?
So right now, things are scarce. And when I say things, I mean there's lots of things, but lots of things are scarce. Food is scarce in some places. TVs are scarce. Books are scarce. Knowledge is scarce. Coaching is scarce. Value creation in general is scarce because there's a biological bottleneck and all value creation is very expensive. I think what people get back from AI is they get back a lack of scarcity on the things that we want, especially when we start seeing robotics come into play, and you continue to reduce the biological bottleneck that currently exists because biological labor is expensive. And so that's what I think people that get back is I think everything becomes exponentially less expensive and more people have more of the things they need and want.
So, eliminate the human factor.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that statement. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that, hearing it, because it's like probably 2 podcasts worth of what do we do? But yeah, I mean, that ultimately is what people can have is I think we get the things that currently cost us a lot for almost nothing.
We would love to have you for one more episode, actually. So we can talk about it. We can talk about security, a little bit about memory. But for today, it's time to set the fire out, right? Jesse, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, this was a fun conversation, guys. Yeah, I would love to come back for another one and talk about what happens to humanity. Is it Wall-E? Do we all sit around in a spaceship on a little scooter and get fat while plugged into our VR headsets? What does it look like for us in the future? I think that'd be a fun conversation.
Yeah,
Depends
this
So if
on the
you're
actually
personality.
movie had a big impact on my daughter, and now she is. I don't want like people to look like that, so I don't like AI.
Yeah. Dude, my wife hates AI, actually. My wife and I've got some kids that are like, they're just, there's a very, it's polarizing. Like there's the people that really love it. And then there's a lot of people that really hate it. I think there's probably a middle somewhere in there too of people who are ambivalent, but,
Yeah,
uh,
balance approach.
Realistic.
it's gotta be really, I tell you what, the next decade is going to be probably one of the most interesting decades in human history.
Yeah,
That is, I
but I mean,
genuinely
people who
believe that
hate
is
it,
true.
it's like hate the electricity or something, right? So it's already happening. You cannot just resist. It's there, right? So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
Pandora's box is open. It's
yeah,
it's it's coming out and no one's stopping it. What you do with it is now what matters, not whether or not it's here or not, because it's
Yeah.
here and it's gonna stay.
This is the reason, one of the reasons why we selected a fire theme, because like as with the fire, fire is out, so you cannot control, you can only direct it and shape it. So,
spreading.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see a lot of people going, they don't put out, it's not fire put outers, they're firefighters. Yeah, that is very true.
We don't need firefighters for AI, at least as of now, right? So let it burn.
Yes, let it burn. Hopefully it doesn't burn everything down.
yeah.
I don't think it will. I mean, I think there's some of that. I've got a little doom and gloom conversation that I could have probably with somebody, but I think for the most part, the thing that I don't trust about AI are the people, not the AI. Like I'm
Yeah,
fine with
and
AI.
how
I
they
think
use
AI
it.
is fine. Yeah, it's just human being, like it's a force multiplier. If a bad person can do more bad things faster using AI, a good person can do more good things faster using AI. Like it's a force multiplier. If you want to create value, you can create more value faster using AI. If you want to be a douchebag, you can be a douchebag way faster using
Yeah.
AI. Like it's
Life
just a force.
gear goes back, right?
Yep. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, guys, I really enjoyed it. This was fun. I'd love to come on again.
Yeah, big
Absolutely.
thanks, and Jesse, for joining us, and jumping in the flames.
And remember, hype burns fast. Real progress burns steady. See you next time on AI on Fire. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.